everybody. Thank you very much for coming. So I'm going to present you Ambrosus, the blockchain that assures quality, safety, and origins of products. So Ambrosus is a blockchain-based ecosystem that combines blockchain protocols, smart contracts, and sensor integration. And it creates a universally verifiable, community-driven ecosystem to assure quality, safety, and origins of products. We started with use cases in the area of food and pharmaceuticals, but over time we developed use cases for luxury products, commodities such as metals, minerals. The clock is not running, guys, by the way. Sorry, I just want not to drag on. So what are the main elements that we have in the ecosystem? The first one is what we call supply chain 2.0. So it's a rethinking of the way supply chains work, including the intelligent governance of supply chains through processes, quality, and tracing. We can record different processes within the supply chain on the blockchain and ensure different stakeholders of how their operations are doing and automatizing the process. The second part is transforming the data. So we have different tools and software that permits to structure the data in the appropriate way to make it ready for blockchain. Our first implementation is built on Ethereum, but we're now building integrations with other existing solutions. And we permit companies to generate valuable data from their supply chain operations, and the data they can trust. That's the important aspect there. The third element we have is what we call direct deals. So we have a marketplace that we launched, a peer-to-peer marketplace where products have a quality assurance element. I'll show the example of that later on. And we're also building commodities exchange platform where commodities have quality assurance element. So you have a triple order book, quality, price, and quantity of products. And the last bit that we have is integration of different sensors into the blockchain. So we turn sensors into oracles, and I'm also going to explain the basics of that later on. So in a nutshell, the core technologies are sensor systems, so APIs for sensors, blockchain, secure storage, a range of developer tools. So we work with a number of different stakeholders building software solutions for different components, and finally our own cryptocurrency, Amber. The protocol itself, for those of you technically minded, I won't go into too much details, but overall we have modular approach. So we built both the protocol that interacts with Ethereum. We have our own private network based on Ethereum, and with IPFS for storage of data. And then we also have the smart contract layer on top of that, so we can customize smart contracts based on what the requirements of the companies are. So whether it's tracing of a vaccine or whether it's actually assuring the authenticity of products, you might have to have different smart contracts involved and different functionality. And then we also have the level of user interface, which permits regular employees who don't have any knowledge of the blockchain to interact with it. And I'm going to show you the pictures of that as well. The second part is basically turning sensors into oracles. So what we provide is we do have a team that build their own sensors, but right now we're actually integrating most of the market available sensors. We build gateways and APIs to enable them to talk to the blockchain and to provide a channel to record both the internal parameters, such as analysis of structure of the object, ingredients, or any processing performed on the object, or external parameters such as temperature of storage, GPS positioning, humidity, pressure, or any other important parameters that can affect the quality of product. And all that is also recorded into our system in a structured way. And the way you assign this data to the product is through our token. So Amber is a data-bonded cryptocurrency. What this means is we actually have a product following the supply chain, so a package of food or pharmaceuticals. And at different stages, different things happen to the product. It can get processed, it can change ownership, or you might have different conditions for storage of that. We bring all of these different readings about the product together. So what you have, the token becomes a digital certificate of a sort. It's both a birth certificate and history of life of your product. So from that perspective, when you receive the product, you can also check what actually happened to it throughout the entire history, and we've been demonstrating it at our booth. To the interested people, we actually showed people how this works. We have the software out already. And then in the end, the industry can reuse the tokens for other operations. We're also launching the case for using Amber as an actual cryptocurrency for small producers. The basic logic there is that it's sometimes difficult to explain to farmers or small manufacturers what is the benefit of using necessarily a blockchain is, besides the marketing or sales element. So we tell them you get 5% bonus to your transactions. So if you have a deal for your organic products worth €1,000, we're going to give you 5% bonus for adopting the currency. And then that incentivizes them to adopt the network, and we can actually show them what other benefits are for their usage. So here we are innovating within this space by finding a new application to the cryptocurrency as well. Some use cases include quality assurance from meat. Also, we've demonstrated it to some people. When you come back, we can show you we have different methods of identifying products. If some of you are sitting not far from the screen, you can try and scan this if it works. And then you'll be able to see how the user interface works on mobile phones. It's very intuitive and straightforward. Actually, that's what it looks like. So you have, if you receive a product, you get the information about the origins of products, what factory it came from, what were the readings, and it's all using kind of a color scheme of good, green is good, red is bad, and then if you're interested to dig deeper, you can do that. So you can create different levels of detail and complexity depending on who the recipient of the information is. You may have a regular consumer. Of course, the consumers just simply want to know if it fits the requirements or not. Whereas if you're a pharmacy receiving a batch of medicine, you might want to have a lot more detail into what happened to your product. And then you can have additional elements, such as that one is establishing the origins of olive oil, which is also, it's one of our pilot projects that we performed, where we could assure where the olive oil comes from without tracing back the olives. If anybody's curious how we do that, you're also welcome to ask us at the stand. That's the example of the P2P quality marketplace that we've launched. It's a marketplace where people can also sell products, but importantly, they have to set quality parameters. So quality is the key attribute of this market. If you supply a product and the quality is not satisfied, the buyer gets reimbursement automatically, or if the quality is slightly underperforming, you can create an automatic payout of a discount. Again, you can tailor-make these solutions in the way that's most suitable to you. The marketplace is open source, so there are a number of versions already running. We don't even know how many versions there are actually, but we know that there are at least 10. And then we're also working with small producers to show them how they can work with that to drive the adoption of this solution. So what we have in our open source ecosystem is different elements. One of them is all about how do you create the right integration of sensors and tracers into the blockchain. So you can have different use cases over there. You can have analytics of data, visualization, storage of the information from sensors. So different functional use cases that we enable. And people can actually build on top of our protocol. The protocol itself is open source. So when some folks ask, how do you have all of these use cases? Are you going to build them all? We're not going to build them all. We have a lot of different people who have existing software, and they may specialize in data visualization. None of us do that. I mean, there are people who know how to do this better, and they come and they say, okay, we're going to integrate our data visualization tool into your protocol. You supply us the data, and we get a new revenue stream. And the benefit for Ambrosus is that we have a new use case, of course. Then there are also use cases for, obviously, payment settlements, real-time audit, which is very important in a few industries, where you must have quality assurance and auditing. So all of these blocks can be customized depending on what the industry is and what the requirements of the client are. And then the particular applications, they're listed there. I've mentioned them all already. So we have specialized teams right now in different areas for quality assurance. I will not go too much into team and advisors, but basically the way we created this, we're based in Switzerland. Between one part is in the Crypto Valley in Zug, another part is in EPFL Innovation Park. And all the core members and advisors, every single one of them is a high achiever in their industry. And this is how we created this momentum, actually, which I'll describe later on. And importantly, we have a number of public sector stakeholders. We are an official partner to the United Nations, to Sustainable Food Systems Program, which enables us to propose, develop use cases for developing countries or for the Sustainable Development Agenda. So one of our key programs right now is to tailor the supply chain operations so that they conform to sustainable development goals. And every single government and every single major corporation in the world is now aligning themselves with the interests of the SDGs. And what Ambrosus can offer them is to become compliant with these new programs. So this is why we made a very strong emphasis on bringing the public sector stakeholders. We have team members who are members or former members of the federal government of Switzerland. We have the endorsement from EIT Food, and which is part of the European Union government. So a number of different stakeholders, and then of course leaders from the sector of finance. We have a few vice presidents from JP Morgan and from Credit Suisse. And the core technology partner is Parity, because we recognize the challenge we're solving is a very difficult one. It's very complex. So you basically have to link hardware, sensor systems with a blockchain. You must achieve scalability. You must have complementarity with different systems, and you should be able to integrate quite easily. So from that perspective, we also brought on board Parity, specifically Gavin Wood, of course, who is a co-founder of Ethereum and who basically created Solidity and invented the language of Solidity and created the first technical implementation of it. So Parity are serving as core technology partner for us. So we've brought in the stakeholders who are able to solve the challenging problem we've set to achieve. The partnerships I've already mentioned. So we have a range of partnerships from finance, technology, private sector, and public sector, a number of awards that we've won. Some information about the expansion. So we publicly launched just about 3.5 months ago. We performed our token generation event, just completed last week, around 30 million Swiss francs. And we also rejected another 30 million Swiss francs. Interestingly, we were very compliant. We kicked out a lot of dirty money from our ICO, so our money is clean and nice. And this is why the governments work with us. There is currently we were the first one to perform our fully compliant KYC AML ICO. So this enables us to work with banks. And I'm aware that in Cyprus, there is a particular issue with many people cashing out on cryptocurrency into fiat because of the central bank instructions. We don't have any of such problems because of the way how we perform the TGE. We also have an active community membership, over 50,000 members. Participants in 106 countries, that's from ICO, because we did the KYC, we know how many countries participated. So it's worldwide distribution, quite a lot of, we've launched a lot of pilots. We have 25 public partnerships currently, and most of them involve a certain experimental design for a pilot project to develop a use case for Ambrosus. And currently we have over 100 different partnerships and negotiations, with mostly with private sector. So nearly every single large company in the space of food and chemicals, we're in talks with them, and also with quite a few pharmaceutical companies. And we're now ramping up the team to be able to actually effectively negotiate with all of them. And this is just in the first 3 months, so we are just getting started on that. The basics of our roadmap is that the project, the building of Ambrosus' vision, it will take 3 years approximately, and we do it in a step-by-step manner, but importantly, you don't have to wait for 3 years to see the results. We take a modular approach. When one part is ready, we deploy it. So what we did this year largely is pilot projects and experimental designs to show how Ambrosus works, how it builds the benefits for people, to create the use case for Amber. We're trying to be careful with the way we use it as a cryptocurrency for legal reasons, but it's increasingly being used by people for that purpose too, although we're not encouraging that officially. Next year, what we're aiming to create is hybrid solutions. What this means in a plain language is partly old technology, cloud storage, maybe semi-centralized databases, partly distributed solutions, because you cannot, despite what many people promise, you cannot just jump straight into fully distributed systems that corporations and industry could use. And in 2019, we aim to make supply chains that will be fully autonomous, and all the processes can be governed by smart contracts, offering you transparency, efficiency, and importantly, you can trust the data you're getting. And finally, our ambition for 2020 is to build the solution for smart cities. A lot of smart cities, they have a program on governance of their product flows and so on. So we reached out to a number of smart cities to do that. And lastly, why we came to this conference? Well, we have two main parts. We are hiring, obviously, for a lot of different positions, both in the technology sector and the business sector. And I'm aware that the University of Nicosia is a pioneer, really, in this space, that they did blockchain before it was cool. That's why I have respect for it. You know, right now, everybody's doing blockchain, but Nicosia started it back when people said, why the hell are you doing that? So we know that they have people who are actually passionate about the tech, who were passionate about it before you knew it's a way to make quick money. And the second part is we're also seeking industrial partners. We want to establish as many different use cases for Ambrosus as we can, and we are able to provide solutions. Many onboarding processes are, we raised ICO funding partly to onboard early users. So manufacturers or companies who want to test it out, they don't necessarily have to worry about the economic parts of it. We can simply demonstrate them how this works and brings value to them. On this note, I will finish, and if you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Hi. Great work. I have a question, actually, it's kind of on the infrastructure level for Ambrosus. What made you choose to go initially for a private Ethereum versus an open, the open version of it? You mentioned that you're planning in 2018 to go to a semi-hybrid decentralized model.
Mm-hmm.
So what stopped you right now from going after it from the beginning?
We're interoperable with the public net. We are simply not using it to record all the transactions because economically that would be very challenging. For example, when we launched our marketplace on Ethereum public net, with the most elegant contract, written by the top people in the industry, it would cost $8 for one listing, even if you make the smart contract as elegant as it goes. So at the early stages, in order to make an economic case, you must have just a dedicated private version, which is simply used for particular use cases. And you're also protected, of course, from the speculation and the rising costs of Ether itself, which makes it so expensive. So the computational power this requires Ambrosus currently, it's a private instance of Ethereum. So first of all, it's fully interoperable with it. And secondly, what we do, we write a hash of a block of transactions on Ethereum mainnet. So what this means is that you can always use Ethereum mainnet to check the validity of transactions on the private net, but at the same time, it can allow us to onboard companies without having to buy Ether.
Hi. I'm curious about the 30 million you rejected. I mean, how did that happen? And so KYC, AML, did these investors weren't they willing to give their personal information, or how did you reject their money?
We have worked with, we are based in Switzerland, and we've worked with providers of basically Swiss banking, know your customer, and anti-money laundering systems. And it gives you access to private information about some people who are involved in something bad, who have some bad links and so on. And we have found out that, from the very beginning, we were telling people, hey, we're going to check on you. And even with that, half of the money that were potentially coming to us had bad links. So we simply found out information that could be problematic, and we had to reject those people.
Thank you for a great presentation. There are some questions. The first, why you choose the Swiss franc as ICO equivalent? Why it's...
We're based in Switzerland. The accounting is done as Swiss francs.
But it was due on a really Ethereum one. It just means that you do not blockchain equivalent, but the real currency.
Oh, we provided that as a number that people can relate to, because Ether always changes in its exchange rate. But the accounting in Switzerland is done as Swiss francs. They don't accept Ether as in accounting. So that's why in communication materials we use Swiss francs.
Is it means that the currency risk of Swiss franc will be on the owners of the token? It will not be like equal to Ethereum. It means that their currency position is a Swiss franc when they take your tokens.
Well, the tokens are not backed by Swiss franc, so that's not a digital Swiss franc. The funding that is used is there's a portfolio, obviously. So, but you don't peg it to the underlying assets. So you shouldn't worry about it being fiat or anything. These tokens do not represent the Swiss franc or anything else.
But your real balance is in Swiss franc. Your real accounting is.
The accounting is done in Swiss francs. We are sorry. We are a Swiss-based company, so we have to do accounting in Swiss francs. They don't accept other currencies. Well, cryptocurrencies specifically, yes.
The second question is, have you do marketing inside of the team? You have a really great team at the ICO process. You do it inside or you do outside, like with some extra advisors or some company who made marketing force for you?
Yes, well, I've been a participant in ICOs for a number of years, so I have my own agency with my own name on it. So I just have people whom I can trust, because sadly, especially in recent months, the vast majority of these agents are crooks. They ask you for a lot of money, they don't deliver, and you may end up in trouble with them. So one has to be quite selective in terms of the marketing and PR partners they select. And that's why we did it. Actually, quite a lot of people say, hey, we haven't seen you too much in the hype scene, because Ambrosus kind of quietly went. Those people who knew about it, they got it. But it wasn't our goal to create the hype, simply because when we started inquiring these people, how do you create the hype? The methods they use are highly questionable, and we prefer to simply avoid dealing with these people. So, yeah.
Thank you. And maybe the third question. Now the token price just a bit below the ICO price that you get, just maybe a few percent down. Do you have some view on the next 2 or 3 years? What is you have in mind, like a sale? What value you give to your, not shareholders, but token holders?
Yeah, we don't provide forward-looking statements on the token price, so that's outside of my scope to comment. We always invite people to just look at everything, compare, make their own judgment, but we don't make any kind of statements on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.